photographer and I got caught in a cloud of gas.
Let's move it over our coverage to 6th and Union, where Megan Black is. Megan, are you on the phone? And what's happening at your location?
I'm sorry. There's like massive tear gas here. We gotta go. They're rushing us away. The tank is moving through the streets right now. I'm sorry. I can't really talk, but I can. The tear gas is really powerful.
All right, Megan.
I can't talk.
With our eyes stinging and tearing, choking and coughing, we tried to get away from the gas, along with many of the protesters. But even with the pain of the tear gas, some of those protesters still refuse to leave the streets. This scene was repeated many times at this intersection, and protesters stood their ground, adamant to stop the WTO meetings.
This was the scene inside the Paramount Tuesday morning, a nearly empty hall. Opening ceremonies were being delayed.
Back outside, Kyle Moore was a block away from Megan. He was at 6th and University. As we continue our timeline, Kyle catches up with a group of protesters who were standing their ground.
These groups have locked themselves in to concrete pipes.
It's nearly 8 a.m. when environmental protesters swarmed the intersection of University and 6th Avenue. I stood just across the street.
Well, a lot of those delegates aren't getting into the convention center. I'll show you why.
With arms linked, these men and women formed a human wall to stop delegates in their tracks.
Because WTO, the corporate heads of the world, are trying to rape and plunder the rest of what's left of our natural resources.
Earth First just moved in with this large inflatable sperm whale. They blocked off the whole intersection.
Others used themselves as blockade.
As you can see, this is a concrete right here. Their arms are actually fastened into these concrete containers.
It gets a little uncomfortable. I could have dressed better, but it's worth it. You know, we gotta do whatever to get heard.
Delegates definitely got an earful.
I'm trying to learn from these nice folks here who are committed to a cause. And rather than walk around and avoid them, I thought I'd engage them in conversation.
It's after 10 a.m. Megan Black is just a block away, caught in a tear gas cloud. 20 minutes later at 10:25 a.m., officers here decide they'd had enough. Donning gas mask and riot gear, the officers move to take back the intersection. They move in on hula hooping and praying protesters.
Here, they just set off the first tear gas right here. We're going to back up a little bit. Our shot's going to get a little shaky, but tear gas, we're going to try to cover ourselves.
Protesters scattered. Within 30 seconds, I was overcome by the gas.
It's a very painful smell. Let's just watch this for a second.
It took several minutes to recover.
I am able to talk now. That tear, they set off a second. Yeah, you see, my eyes are watering a little bit from the tear gas, and I feel it in my lungs.
Most of the demonstrators were knocked down by the gas.
You were prepared, obviously, today, huh?
You know, I'm ready for whatever's going to happen. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to say what I have to say.
During the chaos, the first arrest and more pepper spray. However, protesters continue to block anyone trying to enter.
Right now, state troopers are trying to make a pathway through the protesters to get through, but as you can see,
after a tug of war, the man makes it to the other side, albeit a little shaken.
At noon, the streets were still in chaos. The downtown area was shut down.
The Secret Service decided it was just too dangerous to move Secretary of State Madeleine Albright and Trade Representative Charlene Barshevsky from their hotel rooms at the Westin Hotel.
So far, things were going pretty much the way the protesters had hoped. And then, right where we're standing, suddenly something happened that the protesters didn't expect.
A gang of anarchists hit the Starbucks at Pacific Place. Then they hit the Seafirst Bank, doubled back on 5th, trashing stores in Westlake Center. They turned on Pine, hitting more targets.
And Megan Black saw it all. After being gassed, Megan had moved to 6th and Pine for the start of the anarchist rampage.
Protesters had been tear-gassed all morning. Finally, there was a lull in the activity when all of a sudden a group we had seen all morning, a group we now know as anarchists called the Black Bloc, began terrorizing the city. I was live on the phone as it started.
Trying to break the windows. They're slamming against the window. Oh my gosh, they just broke the Starbucks window. They're breaking into it right now. I'm moving across the street.
It was a frightening moment, and I think I was in shock. I had been separated from my photographer, but as I followed this group, I soon met up with another Cairo photographer, Frank Simon, as the group's rage turned toward him. Photographer Eric Wald and I then followed the black bloc. There were about 30 of them, isolated by their black clothing, black hoods, and masks. It was obvious as they continued their destruction that they were renegade protesters.
Yeah, take off the mask. Take off your mask and join the rest of us and shut up.
And now we're at the McDonald's at 3rd and Pine, where they are breaking more windows. They broke windows at the Gap. They're smashing windows at McDonald's. They're dumping over garbage cans. And they are very angry again and hostile. We're seeing more clashes with other protesters telling them to stop because they're giving everyone a bad name. None of the protesters, the legitimate protesters down here, want any of this kind of action, and they are very angry.
So right now, knocking at the newspaper.
Megan, any sign yet of police trying to track them down?
There's no police anywhere. They're going like... They're breaking the bank window here at U.S. Bank. We got to get out of here. We're going to run up the street because